Welcome to another video blog by The Counseling Geek, a blog helping you, the professional educator, develop technical and 21st century skills.
Hi, well, this is Jeff. I'm back with another interview for The Counseling Geek. I'm here with Dr. Erin Mason, a professor of school counseling at DePaul University, and I want to thank her for taking some time out of her day to sit with us and just answer a few questions about what it's like to be a professor of counseling and what how she integrates technology into both her program as a professor and how she supports her students to learn how to use this new technology as future school counselors. We are using Google Chat today, so we're going to use a different type of medium. Last time we used Skype, and so we'll just give you guys a different look at see how it works. So Dr. Mason, let me just ask you this first question here. Can you describe a bit about your past experience as a counselor and how you got started in this profession?
Sure, and feel free to call me Erin. I only require my students to call me Dr. Mason. So I have 13 years of experience as a school counselor, all in the state of Georgia. So I worked in two of the largest school districts in the Atlanta area, and they were all middle school. I happen to be a big fan of middle school, so that's where I got my start in the field.
Awesome. And what about as a professor? What made you go from being in the school counseling field to teaching future school counselors?
Yeah, that's a question I struggle with sometimes because I do miss being, in the K-12 setting and do miss those aspects of the job. But I think I got to a place in my career where I really wanted to contribute to the field in a different way. And I had taken on interns in my schools, and I had taught some graduate classes in the program that I went through, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So it was sort of a natural transition for me to go into a PhD program, and I don't have any regrets because I still feel like I'm very engaged with school counselors and with kids, and I get to go into schools still. So it's a different place to be, but certainly still just as passionate about the field.
Awesome. All right, well, we can go on to the next question. The next question is this: what type of technology do you regularly integrate into your program, and how have your graduate students been working with it?
Sure. So I use quite a few things, and when I saw that question, I thought I really have to think about that because there are probably some things that I use on a regular basis that I don't consider to be all that innovative, just because I've been using them for a while. But I guess to the average person, they might seem more innovative. So definitely in terms of presenting, I've in the last couple of years been using what's called a flipped classroom model, so that most of the lecture material is actually viewed offline, and when students come into class, it's much more interactive. So what I use for my lectures is VoiceThread, and it's a tool that I don't know how I lived without it. It's a great way to put content in front of people. It's got some aspects of PowerPoint to it, but then what's nice about VoiceThread is not only are you doing audio recordings on top of the slides or videos or whatever you're showing, but students can also interact by asking questions, leaving comments in a variety of different ways. So definitely VoiceThread is a big one for me. Occasionally I do use in presentations, I'll use Prezi. Just if it's a shorter presentation, I want it to be a little bit more engaging than a traditional PowerPoint. Last year I did start using Twitter, and so I've been at that for about a year, and some students take to it more than others do, but I typically use that in courses where I know students are really hungry for different resources and information. So it's a great tool for them to use to connect with other people in the field, but also to get ideas, and that's particularly for those courses where that's kind of a central focus of the course. Another one that I use quite a bit too is Blogger, and right now I have multiple blogs going on. I have a blog for the intro course that I teach, which I used last year as well, and it's been really helpful in helping students to reflect on the readings and provide more insights and things that they might not have a chance to say in class, they get a chance to say in between classes on the blog. I also have my interns blogging, so it's interesting at that point too, because they're at the end of their program, but they're also needing to do a lot of reflecting and a lot of just trying to digest all the things that they've been through and that they're experiencing in their site. So I would say probably VoiceThread, Twitter, and Blogger are the top ones for me.
Excellent. You also are the founder of SCOPE, and that's something I want to talk about a little bit. What got you started in creating that? Did you see a need, and what kind of fueled that fire?
Yeah, so I definitely have had a long-standing interest in technology and in terms of incorporating it myself as a school counselor and then now at the higher ed level. And so SCOPE for me was kind of a brainchild that came out of school counselors needing sort of one place that they could go to where they could find out about different technologies that they could use and why they might use them. And I really wanted to emphasize with SCOPE that it's not just about the tool itself, but it's about being intentional with how you use it. So trying through SCOPE to give some examples of how school counselors are using it, and that was really the basis of it. I'm happy to share that I'm actually working on a $500,000 federal grant that hopefully if I get it, will support SCOPE, and so I'm actually thinking of migrating it to its own website where it'll have a lot more features and a lot more functionality than it currently has. Yeah, we'll see.
Let's see, what are some speed bumps that you had to overcome when trying to start implementing new technology or keeping projects fresh and ongoing?
Do you mean with students or?
Whichever. I mean, with SCOPE, it could be in your professional life, and earlier when you were working in the field. Whichever you feel like answering is. I think everyone's interested in all those realms, but
right.
Yeah, whatever you feel comfortable and you think is most important.
Yeah, I think people's attitude towards technology is huge, and my attitude, I always describe it as fun versus fear. So if you look at technology as a way to have fun with some of the things that you're doing and to do them in a new and different way, and instead of being fearful of it and what you might mess up, then I think that really helps. But in terms of staying fresh, the best tool for me is other people like you, other people who are really interested in technology that I can learn from, and that can tell me about things that they're using and how they're using them. So for me, really, I can't do technology without the people connections too. That's a critical part to it in terms of staying fresh.
We got a few more questions. Let's just move on to one that's talking about where do you think the use of technology within the realm of the school counselor is heading within the next 5 or 10 years? What do you foresee happening with that?
Well, I certainly have a lot of hopes that it's really going to take off. It's been nice to see so many school counselors get on Twitter, and that has sparked a lot of good conversations and connections, and I think that is something that for some people seems a little intimidating to get started with Twitter, but I do think it's slowly catching on. What I hope to see with technology and school counseling really is that school counselors will be some of the leaders in their building in terms of using technology, so that they will be the ones that other people look to say, how I want to present this content and make it engaging for my students. Do you have any ideas about that? I do think it's going to radically change education as we know it in the long run, and I would love to see school counselors really be, ahead of the curve on that. So that's my hope. That's my dream.
I think that's all of our dream. It'd be awesome to see it happen within the next couple of years.
It would.
And I think it's going to be thanks to you and other people that are building that desire. That's kind of what's going to be sparking the fire. Kind of looking back, we're going to go retrospective a little bit. What what would you do different? What if you were starting way back when? What would you do different in either starting out as a school counselor? I mean, obviously technology has changed over that time, but you know, if you were a new counselor right now, what would you do different that you weren't doing back, you know, when you first started?
Yeah, I think for me in terms of technology, I would say to just be open to technologies that don't necessarily seem like they have an application to school counseling, but because I think sometimes we decide to cut things out in terms of them being options for us because they're really geared towards a certain population or a certain task or something like that. And I think that that's a mistake, that sometimes there are technologies out there, Web 2.0 tools, that we can find a use for, that they may not necessarily be intended specifically for school counseling. But if we kind of think creatively and we're open to it, then they can be something that we can really use. So I think it's just a matter of being open and not turning yourself off to things that aren't necessarily intended for you.
Excellent. Well, kind of just wrapping things up, I want to open it up to you, and just if you have anything that you are really passionate about that you'd like to share, or if there's any final tips or advice or words of wisdom that you want to get out to all the counselors that are watching this video, what would you tell people?
I think my main thing would be just to be okay with playing. Technology, I think, is very much a playground for us. It can be. And I think it's a tool to really be harnessed and used and not to be intimidated by. I think the biggest factor in my own adopting of new tools is in talking to other people like you and realizing, oh, this was something I'd heard about, but I never really thought that it would fit me, or I didn't think I could find a purpose for it. But I think the more that we can spread the knowledge and the skills that we have as school counselors within each other, the more that we're going to see more school counselors really, leading the charge with technology.
Perfect. Well, I really want to thank you, both on my behalf and behalf of all the counselors that are experiencing Twitter and SCOPE and the Counseling Geek.
Absolutely.
And I just want to thank you for the time that you spent with us and answering these questions and providing us with all these resources. I know I've used your resources that you've shared with us countless times and retweeted and reblogged all your posts, and I mean it's just amazing being able to interact with people that have such experience and such knowledge, and that they're so down to earth and able to connect with via Gmail or Google Chat or Twitter or at like Ask a National conferences. So I want to thank you. This has been another thing by Counseling Geek with an interview with Dr. Erin Mason of DePaul University. We're looking forward to the next one. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for stopping by. Come back soon. Comments and questions are always welcome. You can connect with the Counseling Geek via Facebook by following @Counseling Geek on Twitter, adding me to your circles on Google+, or writing to me via email.